What we're going to be discussing now is the application of both a short arm volar splint and a short leg posterior splint using a cut to length roll splint. And involved in the demonstration will be a wetting technique that allows for convenience and control of water and applying a dry splint to the patient. So the splint comes in a continuous foil pouch, and for the volar splint we determine the length that we want. After cutting the splint, we fold the remaining splint back so that we have available foil to reapply the friction type clamp. And then we're ready to work with the splint. As you can see by design, the splint has padding on one side and a backing material on the other to keep the splint low profile, so the padding is only on the side that goes against the patient. Because we've cut the splint, we need to protect the edges, so at this time we can just pull the padding to then protect the raw edge of the fiberglass splinting material, and that needs to be done at both ends of the splint. And it's better to do this prior to dipping the splint or wetting the splint. When it comes to wetting this splint material, because it has a patented hydrophobic treatment, water is not absorbed. It's hydrophobic, so you can choose the wetting technique that you want. You can either do a standard wetting technique in a bucket of water and then blot the splint off on a towel, or you can use a very convenient wetting technique where you just grab the 2 layers of backing material like so and take your water bottle and add water into each side of the splint. And then you can take and just wring your splint out, and the felt padding remains dry while the splinting material is activated. Next, we lay the splint on the patient, and because the padding is only on one side, we can roll back the edge for proper dimensions. And when we get to the distal or the proximal end, we can do the same. After securing the elastic wrap, the patient can relax. So now that the splint's applied for molding, we just need to maintain slight pressure in the palm, and by holding the hand this way, we can control dorsiflexion, palmar flexion, ulnar and radial deviation. And what I'm doing under the splinted arm is just holding pressure right here, so I'm controlling ulnar radial deviation, palmar flexion, dorsiflexion, and I'm applying a working point according to the three-point fixation principle that will give more functional use while wearing this splint. And as you can see, the material cures very quickly. And then inside we have a perfectly formed splint, and you can see how it's molded in the palmar area, and will be very functional. For the patient ultimately, because they'll have a working point.